easy target for many birds, snakes, and mammals. Some frogs have evolved to jump, climb, and even fly. But one frog applies the ultimate camouflage. Somewhere on this lily pad hides a reed frog, a master of disguises. This tiny little male is small enough to fit on a penny. His miniature frame and light green color allows him to blend perfectly within the forest. However, it's from beneath this frog that his true colors shine. Straight through his body. With skin like glass, you can see the blood vessels, its intestines, its liver, and don't forget, its beating heart. Even their skeleton is visible, and in some species, the bones are green to help conceal them in the undergrowth. Thanks to some extremely thin skin on their stomachs and extremities, and a severe lack of pigment in their cells, their bodies do not reflect the incoming light, but rather allow it to pass straight through them. The result is a translucent skin. Predators don't have a hope in hell of finding this elusive ghost. For a frog, a good escape plan can mean a difference between life and death. So if you can't defend yourself, disappear, or fly, some have to rely on the basics and do what a frog does best. Jump. This is the grass frog. Many frogs can jump at least 20 times their body length, a distance of over a meter. Even the largest and heaviest can jump as far as 2 meters. But the true world champion is the grass frog. A long jumper who can clear over 4 meters in a single bound. A distance of over 80 times their body length. This is the equivalent of a human jumping the length of a football field without a running start. A frog's legs make up a quarter of the amphibian's body mass. The grass frog's shin bone alone is about as long as the entire frog. Add to that the thigh and foot bones, and you have legs that are almost 3 times as long as the body itself. But all that muscle still isn't enough to account for how far the grass frog can leap. The answer lies in its tendons. The lower parts of the frog's backbone are fused, forming a strong anchor from which all the jumping muscles attach to the skeleton. As the frog prepares to jump, its calf muscles tighten and the tendons wind up like a catapult. In just 1/5 of a second, the tendons release like a trigger and the thigh muscles contract, firing the frog up and away. Some frogs can jump even faster, but when it comes to distance, the grass frog is the master. Frogs can survive in all extremes. From the scorching heat of the sun to the winter wonderland of the frozen tundra. Hibernation is a common response to the cold winters of North America. As winter bites down, some animals migrate to warmer climates, while others burrow deep underground to sleep until spring. and some choose to quite literally freeze to death. The wood frog has an astounding ability. It can produce antifreeze. This seemingly ordinary amphibian can survive at temperatures as low as -16 degrees Celsius, and then come back to life. Winter is coming, and the wood frog prepares for the big freeze. As the first ice crystals creep over the frog's skin, an incredible transformation begins. The water in the frog's blood starts to freeze. This ice sucks the precious water out of the frog's cells. To prevent full-scale dehydration, the liver begins to make large amounts of glucose. This concoction packs into the frog's cells, propping them up. The antifreeze prevents too much water being drawn out of the cells by the ice outside. If they lose more than 60% of their water, the process becomes irreversible. The cells will dehydrate, crumple and die from frostbite. The frog's antifreeze keeps him alive. The wood frog enters a state of suspended animation. Its internal organs and metabolic activity grind to a near halt. The lungs stop working and the heart eventually stops beating. The wood frog can survive for months with an incredible 2/3 of its body completely frozen. After a grueling 8 months, spring arrives. The temperature's warm and the ice starts to melt. Hidden within his frozen tomb, the wood frog also begins to thaw. Water slowly flows back into the cells. They rehydrate and return to their original shape. Within 30 minutes, the heart restarts and the blood begins to flow. The wood frog comes back to life. After 2 days, the frog heads out on the search for some food and a mate. To ensure their survival, frogs have an astounding ability to adapt and evolve to their habitat, even if they live high up in the canopies of South America's rainforests. The gliding tree frog spends its days hundreds of feet in the air, ambling along vines and branches. Their large, sticky hands and feet grip onto any available foliage. The thin layer of skin between their fingers and toes acts like a parachute. Lateral skin flaps along their arms and legs also catch the air as they free fall. This increased surface area provides enough air resistance to slow an otherwise fatal descent into a controlled glide. Like a skydiver, the frog makes small, subtle movements to steer its way to safety up to 15 meters away. Their flexible skeletons are modified to absorb the shock on landing, while their oversized sticky toe pads once again grip on for dear life. From the long jumpers and the aerial acrobats, the jungle is home to another frog with extreme and unusual appendages. Nature's fearless free climber. Unlike their free-falling cousins, this tree frog doesn't have built-in parachutes. For these daredevils who spend their life high in the treetops, there is one very important feature to their survival: a good grip. The forest tree frog is capable of incredible gravity-defying feats, thanks to millennia of evolution. This extreme free climber is tiny, less than 5 centimeters in fact. High up in the canopy, the tree frog holds on tight. To the naked eye, his round toe pads appear normal. But if we zoom in a billionth of a meter for a closer inspection, we reveal the frog's secret. Their toe pads are actually made up of hundreds of hexagonal cells. And each cell is tightly packed with thousands of fibers. These strands move and bend to mirror the contours of the surface. Its grip is so strong that to break it, the frog must peel off each toe pad as they climb. To further improve their grip, the tree frog secretes a thin layer of sticky mucus. Only 1.5 times more viscous than water, it acts like glue. Deep in the dense tropical jungles, there is a rare genetic amphibian which separated from the frog family tree around the time of the dinosaurs. It is known as the Darwin frog. Their long, fleshy snout may resemble Pinocchio's nose, yet it gives them the appearance of a dead leaf. And at only 2 centimeters long, the Darwin frog can be very hard to spot. Potential predators simply pass on by. However, it's this frog's highly unusual form of parental care that truly makes it stand out from the crowd. After mating, it's up to the male to fertilize and guard the eggs. The male picks up his young, one by one, and places them in his mouth. He maneuvers them into his vocal sac through the slits under his tongue. This large, flexible sac extends from beneath his throat, over his belly, all the way to his groin. Once safely cocooned within their father, the tadpoles continue to grow. Now here he's carrying such a precious cargo, the male must be extra vigilant for predators. A large rodent or snake will get quite a meal out of this frog buffet. It's time to take his strategy to the next level. He leaps into the water, rolls onto his back, and plays dead. The rigid frog floats downstream, leaving the snake behind, confused and hungry. The Darwin frog can feign death for up to 30 minutes. Once safely downriver, he springs back to life. Despite his calm demeanor, deep within the Darwin frog is a hive of activity. The tiny tadpoles are now fully formed froglets, developing limbs, digestive tracts, and even a set of jaws. Their father's internal organs distort and shift to accommodate the growing offspring. It'll soon be time to set them free. 50 days after consuming his young, the male finds a safe, secluded spot and braces himself. One by one, the Darwin frog vomits up his young. Up to 19 of them. These perfect little replicas are now left to fend for themselves. In the early stages of life, tadpoles and froglets are highly vulnerable to attack. So having a 24-hour bodyguard is a huge advantage, especially if he's armed with deadly weapons. Sightings of a frog covered in hair first emerged over 100 years ago, deep in the dark jungles of Central Africa. A hairy amphibian with razor-sharp claws that hunts by the water's edge. Over the years, this myth became legend. Today, local hunters dare not face this creature without spears or machetes. This is the hairy frog, an amphibian that reaches 11 centimeters from tip to toe. Its broad head and short, rounded snout may appear normal, but it's down below that this frog truly reveals itself. Covering its flanks and thighs are thick, fur-like tufts. Despite its appearance, these are not hairs. These protrusions are actually long strands of skin packed with arteries. This is a male, and he's on guard duty. He's protecting the next generation of hairy frogs. This hair is thought to function similarly to the gills on a shark. The hairy frog can absorb oxygen from the water through this permeable, whiskered skin. The more hairs, the greater the surface area and the more oxygen he can absorb. However, during this sentry duty, both the eggs and the male are vulnerable to attack. Insects, spiders, and other frogs will quite happily take advantage of this nutritious hatch. To fight off any threats, this mutant has a type of weaponry better suited in the realm of science fiction. The hairy frog has built-in bone claws. This frog actively breaks its own bones, which burst through its toes. Concealed inside each toe pad is a small bony claw. Each talon is anchored to a small piece of bone. Under threat, the frog contracts its muscles and breaks the safety bone, which forces its sharp claws straight through the toe pad. Unlike the claws of a lion or a wolf, these are raw bone. To retract the claws, it's thought the hairy frog relaxes its muscles and the bones slide back into the toe. Thanks to its super healing powers, the frog can regenerate its punctured skin, leaving behind no marks or scars. The hairy frog may use bone claws to protect his young, which gives him the best chance of survival. But deep in the dark, dingy swamps of South America, there is a frog with maternal instincts that will make your skin crawl. A warty, disfigured creature that appears almost putrefied even at the peak of good health. It is the flattest amphibian on our planet and looks more like roadkill. But looks can be deceiving, and the Suriname toad is perfectly camouflaged as a rotting leaf or rock. It has tiny eyes, no teeth and no tongue, so it relies on its long, sensitive fingers to probe around for worms, insects, and small fish. But when it comes to raising its offspring, things get even more horrific. While most frogs abandon their eggs to hatch in the rivers and ponds, the Suriname toad keeps hers close, right under her skin. This female is about to give birth. The holes in her back are where her eggs sunk into her skin 12 weeks ago. Up to 100 fully formed toadlets are ready to emerge. Her back starts to bulge and contort. Like a sci-fi horror, a foot bursts through her back, followed by a hand, then a head, until all her young are free. These miniature replicas are each over a centimeter long and are ready to feed on anything they come across, including their siblings. This grotesque adaptation may seem alien, but they do guarantee the offspring's best chance of survival. Whether you ingest your young or let them live under your skin, these extreme behaviors do ensure the offspring's best chance of survival. But how do frogs that live in extreme environments protect their young? Africa is an unforgiving home for an amphibian, with temperatures reaching over 40 degrees Celsius in the day and below 5 degrees at night. Here, only the strongest and strangest survive. The foam nest frog has many tricks to endure this hot, arid environment, but it's how they protect their offspring that is truly extraordinary. It all begins with a female selecting a tree close to a water source. She climbs into position on a branch several meters above the water and starts releasing her eggs. Up to 1,200 in all. It's not long before the males start to arrive, and the female produces a sticky mixture of urea and mucus around the eggs, while each male releases his sperm into the foam. All the kicking, wriggling and rubbing whips the egg whites into a lather. The nest may take up to 7 hours to complete, but they can create a huge foamy bubble over a meter across. As more males join the party, they smother the females, up to 12 at a time, and before long the branch is amassed with writhing bodies. After mating, the frogs release a special protein which forms a crust on the surface of the foam. It acts as a kind of biological Teflon, protecting the eggs inside, until they hatch. As night falls on the pools and ponds of Africa, a particularly ferocious amphibian is on the prowl. Under the cover of darkness, the clawed frog emerges from the depths. It is on the search for insects, fish, and other family members, ready to tear them apart with its claws. These scavengers will eat almost anything, whether it's living, dying, or even dead. The clawed frog has a voracious appetite. They are completely aquatic, and their large webbed feet are built for extreme maneuverability and explosive speed. Except they have no teeth, no tongue, and no visible ears. So, how does this killer find its prey in near complete darkness? The clawed frog relies on its extremely sensitive fingers, an acute sense of smell, and an advanced detection system, also found in sharks. What appears to be scarring all along the frog's flanks is in fact a thin hollow tube known as the lateral line. It is filled with thousands of minute sensory hair cells, so sensitive that the frog can detect the slightest vibrations in the water emitted by moving prey. The clawed frog may not be able to see or hear its next meal, but it can calculate its size, speed, and direction. Once locked on, it's an explosive assault from every angle. 1930s, the clawed frog was the world's first pregnancy test. Once injected with the urine of a pregnant woman, this frog would spawn eggs. Overnight, the clawed frog became one of Africa's biggest exports. However, this is not the only frog that has been exploited for human resources. The tropical rainforests of South America are home to a deadly amphibian, targeted and manipulated for its powerful anesthetic and often lethal qualities. Known as the jewels of the rainforest, these assassins sport some of the most brilliant and beautiful colors on Earth. There are more than 100 different species of poison dart frog, yet each pattern is unique, like a human fingerprint. But these elaborate shades and hues are not just for show. It is a warning flag to potential predators. They may only be the size of a bottle cap, but the poison frog is considered one of Earth's most toxic creatures. Within their skin, some species store a toxin 200 times stronger than morphine. A poison so lethal, it can kill 10 men. So how can something so small be so deadly? You are what you eat. Surprisingly, poison dart frogs don't use their poison to hunt. Instead, they lure their prey to them by tapping their long middle toes against the ground. This pitter-patter of vibrations is thought to mimic the sound of rain, drawing insects from hiding. Once out in the open, the frogs pick them off. They shoot out their long, sticky tongues and devour their prey whole. And this is the secret to their toxicity. The frogs absorb plant poisons ingested by their prey, which includes ants, termites, and beetles. When threatened, the poison oozes out of their skin, making them toxic to the touch. It appears that looks can kill, and so can size. This desolate African wetland will soon be the battleground for thousands of bloodthirsty frogs. Hidden beneath the earth, an army of the undead awaits the first rains. This giant male bullfrog has lain dormant in his underground tomb for nearly a year. Cocooned in a blanket of old skin, with most of his internal organs in stasis, it'll soon be time to feed. Above ground, a storm approaches. The dry season is finally coming to an end. The long-awaited rains seep through the dry, cracked earth and awaken an army of sleeping giants. The earth begins to move as hundreds of killer frogs burst from the depths. They are hungry and ready to feed. The giant bullfrog is an aggressive and carnivorous predator that will consume grow to the size of a football. As the plague of male bullfrogs rise from below, the local inhabitants evacuate the area. The giant bullfrog is an ambush predator. Its strike is as fast as it is powerful. Once in range, the bullfrog unfurls its tongue and snatches its meal. Their enormous mouth, armed with sharp fang-like teeth in its lower jaw, snaps shut like a bear trap. Prey is often severed in two or consumed whole. Even snakes give the giant bullfrog a wide berth. The frog stalks its prey like a lion, moving from cover to cover and staying low to the ground. It creeps into position and sets up the ambush. The snake's desperate bites fail to penetrate the frog's thick skin. The snake's struggle is over. Once fed, the males prepare for another battle against each other. The giant bullfrog heads into combat. The victor of these violent confrontations wins the territory and the females. These duels can be to the death. But great risks reap great rewards. The bullfrog may be a cold-blooded killer, but it does have a softer side. Reptiles and amphibians rarely care for their young after they hatch, but this doting father is an exception. The females lay around 4,000 eggs at a time in shallow nursery ponds. If left unattended, predators will quickly devour these defenseless young. So the father acts like a babysitter, diligently watching over his offspring. But one threat the tadpoles cannot escape is the heat of the African sun. As temperatures soar, the nursery pool starts to evaporate and shrink. The devoted father must act quickly. He uses his powerful hind legs to dig a channel to the main wetland. As the dam wall breaks, thousands of tadpoles are set free to their new home. Here, they must fend for themselves. Fed and bred, the male bullfrogs return to their underground crypts, where they will hide until the next breeding season. The bullfrog may be enormous, but it's not the largest frog to have walked the earth. To witness that giant, we must disappear deep into the rainforests of West Africa. This secret kingdom is the land that time forgot. A dense, lush and tropical jungle that is refuge to the last of the monster frogs. A living giant. This is the Goliath frog. They are the largest living frogs ever known, reaching over 30 centimeters long and weighing over 3 kilograms. It's the size of a house cat. This huge predator patrols the fast-flowing rivers and waterfalls, forever on the lookout for crabs, fish, and even bats. With eyes as big as our own, and feet the size of your hand, you'd think that such a beast would have a croak to match. Yet the Goliath frog is a mute. It doesn't possess a vocal sac, rendering it completely silent. But what it lacks in noise, it makes up for in leap. The Goliath frog has enormous, powerful legs, which catapult it over 3 meters in a single bound. Once in the water, this behemoth deploys its huge webbed feet and transforms into an Olympic swimmer. Their dark granular green skin allows them to blend perfectly into the habitat. But despite its gargantuan size and position in the food chain, it's still a victim in this dark forest. Frogs may have an incredible ability to adapt, evolve and survive, yet they are under severe threat. As man's greed for power and land tears through their habitat, and pollutants squeeze the life from the rivers and streams, dozens of frog species are already extinct. In addition, the same permeable skin the frogs use to breathe underwater is now the target for a deadly fungus. Frogs form an integral part of the natural food chain, acting as both pest control and prey to larger predators.